Hi.
You ever look back at your life and wonder when exactly everything started going wrong? Like, was it that one small moment you ignored, or was it always heading in this direction no matter what? That's how I feel looking back at my marriage with Mandy. We had what most people would call a great life. Nice house, a detached villa near the M25 motorway. Successful careers. 2 daughters, all grown up and out of the house, living their own lives. We even ran a business together, Alpha Business Consultants, ABC, before deciding it was best to split responsibilities. Mandy handled strategy. I shifted to freelance project management. Seemed like a fair deal at the time. I thought, now that we were empty nesters, we'd have more time for each other. Take trips, go on dates, rekindle that spark. I had all these ideas in my head. Paris weekend getaways, surprise dinner reservations, just enjoying life again like we did when we first met at university. But then Mandy got the dog. Doug. That little yappy thing came into our lives like a wrecking ball. Not because I hated him. I didn't, not at first, but because suddenly, Mandy had something else to pour all her attention into. Every day, it was Doug this and Doug that. She'd come home from her business trips and barely even look at me before scooping him up and showering him with affection. If I tried to plan a night out, it was always, but what about Doug? I can't leave him alone too long. It was strange. Mandy had never been a pet person before. And now, out of nowhere, she was acting like Doug was the love of her life. And then there were the business trips. She always traveled for work, so at first, I didn't think much of it. But suddenly, they were becoming more frequent. Short, random getaways. Conferences she had to attend. Always a little vague about the details. And every time she came back, she was different, distant, always exhausted, but never in a way that made sense. I started noticing little things. Her phone never left her side. Before, she used to leave it on the kitchen counter while cooking, but now, glued to her hand or tucked away in her bag. The late-night messages. The random giggles while texting someone. The way she'd get defensive when I so much as glanced in her direction when her screen was on. Then, one evening, something happened that set off alarm bells in my head. I was outside, fixing her bright orange Volkswagen Beetle convertible, the one I maintained for her religiously, when she pulled into the driveway, stepping out of a black Mercedes instead. Not a taxi. Not a rideshare. A car I didn't recognize. The driver didn't get out, just sat there for a moment as Mandy leaned in through the passenger window. I watched as she laughed, touched her hair in that flirty way, and whispered something before finally stepping away. The car drove off, and when she turned toward the house, she froze. Because I was standing right there. She recovered quickly. Too quickly. Oh, you're home early. I wasn't. Who was that? I asked, keeping my voice calm. Mandy's smile didn't even falter. Oh, just a colleague. I needed a ride back from the train station. There was no train sound in the background when she got out of that car. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something told me, deep down, that this was just the beginning of something much, much worse. That night, I couldn't shake the image of Mandy leaning into that car window. The way she smiled. The way she lingered. I told myself I was being paranoid. That I was just reading into things too much. But once a thought like that takes root, it's impossible to ignore. So, I started paying closer attention. First, it was the business trips. She had another one scheduled for the weekend. Last minute, of course. Supposedly, she was heading to a business conference in Manchester. But here's the thing. Mandy never used to be this bad at lying. She was packing way too light. A couple of casual outfits, barely any work materials. And her favorite red dress, the one she usually saved for special occasions. Why are you taking that? I asked, leaning against the doorway. She barely looked up. Oh, you never know. Might go out for dinner with some colleagues. Which colleagues? Oh, just the usual group. You wouldn't know them. Except I would. We ran a business together for years. I knew her network. Still, I let it go, for the moment. Then came Doug. Mandy was obsessed with that dog, wouldn't leave him alone for more than a few hours. But suddenly, she was fine dropping him off at her friend Emma's house for the entire weekend. No guilt, no hesitation. Just a quick phone call and it was handled. That was not like her. Then, there was the car GPS. After she left for Manchester, I had this nagging feeling that wouldn't let go. So I went out to her bright orange Beetle, the one I always maintained for her, and checked the navigation history. Manchester wasn't on the list. But you know what was? Brighton. A coastal city, nowhere near where she said she was going. That's when my stomach sank. I sat in that driver's seat, gripping the wheel, staring at the screen. My heart was pounding. It wasn't just paranoia anymore. It was real. Mandy was lying to me. I didn't know exactly what she was up to yet, but I had a strong suspicion. And I wasn't going to sit around and be played for a fool. So, I made a decision right then and there. I was going to catch her in the act. I wasn't the type to jump to conclusions, but this wasn't some misunderstanding. Mandy lied straight to my face, and I needed to know why. So, I grabbed my jacket, hopped into my car, and started driving. Brighton was 2 hours away, and if I timed it right, I'd get there just before dark. My mind was racing the entire way. Who was she meeting? How long had this been going on? Was it just some fling, or was I about to find out my whole marriage was a lie? By the time I hit the outskirts of Brighton, my hands were clenched so tight around the steering wheel my knuckles were white. I had no plan. No idea what I was going to do. But I wasn't about to turn back. Then, I spotted it. A bright orange Volkswagen Beetle. Mandy's car was parked outside a fancy beachfront hotel. The kind with private balconies, ocean views, and candlelit dinners in the courtyard. Not exactly the scene of a business conference. My chest felt tight. I pulled over across the street, far enough that she wouldn't notice me, and waited. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. I was about to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, I was wrong. Then, the elevator doors opened. And there she was. Mandy. Wearing that tight red dress. The one she always said made her feel sexy. The one she only wore for me. Except this time, she wasn't wearing it for me. Because right behind her, stepping out of the elevator, was a man. Tall. Dark-haired. Smirking as he placed his hand on the small of her back, leading her toward the hotel bar. I felt my stomach drop. My wife was on a romantic getaway with another man. I should have been furious. Should have stormed across the street, made a scene, demanded answers. But I didn't. Because in that moment, standing there in the dark, I realized something. Mandy thought she was in control. She thought she was getting away with this. But now, I had the upper hand. I sat in my car, watching them like a hunter watching prey. Mandy had no idea I was there. She laughed at something he said, playfully touching his arm, like she used to do with me. Like I didn't exist. But I wasn't going to rage. I wasn't going to storm in there and cause a scene. No. That's what she would expect. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. A few snaps of them at the bar, the way she leaned into him, the way he rested his hand on her thigh like it belonged there. Proof. Cold, undeniable proof. I could have walked away. Could have just filed for divorce, sent her the photos, and left it at that. But something inside me wasn't satisfied with just leaving. She needed to learn. She needed to feel what I felt. So, I got to work. First, I texted her. Hey, babe. Just wanted to say I miss you. Hope your conference is going well. Can't wait to see you when you get back. I watched as she reached into her purse and glanced at her phone. Saw her roll her eyes before shoving it back in without responding. Perfect. Then, I did something risky. Something that could have backfired. I walked into the hotel. Not through the front entrance, but through the parking garage. I wasn't about to get caught. I needed more than just bar photos. I needed something damning. I found the concierge, slipped him a 50-pound note, and asked for a little favor. "My wife is in town for a business conference," I said, forcing a sheepish smile. I wanted to surprise her. "Room number for Mandy Turner." The guy hesitated, looked me up and down. Then he caved. "Room 408, sir." Bingo. I took the elevator up, heart pounding. My hands were steady, my mind sharp. This wasn't an emotional reaction. This was war. When I reached her floor, I waited. I needed them out of the room. A few minutes later, my patience paid off. The elevator dinged, and Mandy and her lover stepped out, laughing as they made their way toward the bar again. I slipped down the hallway, right to room 408. I had a spare key to her suitcase. She always carried the same one for business trips. I knew exactly where she kept it. A few seconds of fumbling, and click, I was inside. My hands moved fast. Her suitcase? Opened. Lingerie she never wore for me. Heck. Bathroom counter? 2 toothbrushes. His and hers. Nightstand. His wallet, complete with an ID. Michael Evans. I took pictures of everything. Then, I left a little surprise. I took my wedding ring and left it on her pillow. No note. No message. Just the ring. Then, I walked out, calm as ever, and drove home. Mandy thought she was winning. She had no idea what was coming next. The drive home was quiet. No music, no distractions. Just me, gripping the steering wheel, feeling the weight of what I had just seen. Mandy wasn't just having an affair. She was living a double life. I should have been heartbroken. Should have been devastated. But instead, all I felt was this cold, sharp focus. She thought she was in control. Thought she could lie to my face, sneak around, and come back home like nothing happened. Not anymore. I spent the next few hours preparing. I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to make sure she felt the same shock, the same betrayal. I was going to make her world crumble. Step 1. The group chat bomb. Mandy had a close-knit circle of friends, most of them wives of men I also knew. We had a group chat, just casual banter, event planning, that kind of thing. I waited until Sunday evening, the night before she was supposed to come home, and then I dropped the pictures. Mandy at the bar with her lover. His hand on her thigh. The toothbrushes. The lingerie she packed. His wallet, clear as day. And then, the final touch, a picture of my wedding ring on her pillow. Along with a message. "I hope the business trip was worth it, Mandy. You're not coming back here." Then, I muted the chat. Let the fireworks begin. Step 2. The lockout. Mandy had no idea, but while she was out playing house with Michael Evans, I was changing every lock in the house. Front door, back door, even the garage. Her clothes, packed in garbage bags. Her important documents, left in a box outside. The moment she pulled into the driveway, she'd realize she didn't live here anymore. Step 3. The final blow. By midnight, my phone was blowing up. Her friends? Shocked. Some defended her, most didn't. A few of the husbands messaged me privately, telling me they always had a weird feeling about Mandy but never had proof. And then, Mandy called. I let it ring. She called again. And again. Then, a text. "Babe, please answer. Let me explain." I almost laughed. Explain what? That she had spent the weekend in a luxury hotel while I was at home, clueless? That she let some other guy touch her, sleep beside her, while she texted me lies about missing me? No. I wasn't giving her the chance. I simply replied, "Your things are outside. The locks are changed. We're done." Then, I turned off my phone and went to bed. Mandy's perfect little world had just crashed down. Monday morning, I woke up to chaos. The moment I turned my phone back on, I had dozens of missed calls, texts, and voicemails. Not just from Mandy, but from mutual friends, her parents, even a couple of her colleagues. I ignored all of them. Except one. A text from my neighbor, Steve. Hey man, Mandy's outside your house. She's been banging on the door for the past 30 minutes. You good? I walked over to the window, and there she was. Mandy. Still in her red dress, hair a mess, eyes wild, pacing back and forth with her phone in her hand. The garbage bags with her clothes sat untouched near the front step. Her suitcase was still in her car. She wasn't ready for this. Good. I opened the window. You should go, I said, my voice flat. She whipped around. Dave, please, just let me in. Let's talk. Talk? Like the way she talked to me when she came home from her fake business trips? Like the way she talked to me while another man was touching her? I shook my head. There's nothing to talk about, Mandy. You made your choice. She stepped closer to the house. No, Dave, it wasn't like that. It was just a mistake. I wasn't thinking. I love you. I let out a short laugh. A mistake? A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. Packing a bag, driving 2 hours to a hotel, and sleeping with another man? That's a choice. I stared at her. Does Michael know you love me? Her face drained of color. She stammered. He doesn't mean anything to me, Dave. I swear. I was just confused, and he was there, and I held up my hand. Stop. She froze. You lied to me. You disrespected me. You threw away everything we built. And now you want to stand here and act like it was nothing. Tears welled up in her eyes. Fake tears. The same ones she probably used on her lover when she needed him to feel sorry for her. I just need you to listen to me. Like how you listened to me when I asked about that Mercedes. I cut in. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Caught. I nodded. That's what I thought. Then, I turned and walked away from the window. And locked it. Her screams outside turned desperate. She pounded on the door, sobbing, begging me to give her another chance. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She was learning, in real time, exactly what it felt like to be betrayed. And I was just getting started. Mandy didn't leave. For nearly an hour, she stayed outside, alternating between crying, begging, and raging. She wasn't sorry. She was just sorry she got caught. I sat inside, drinking my coffee, ignoring every second of it. Then, she made a mistake. She called her parents. Now, I had nothing against my in-laws. They were decent people. But I knew how Mandy operated. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. And if she could spin this the right way, she'd try to make me the bad guy. Not today. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, my phone rang. It was her dad. I picked up. Collected. David, son, what's going on? He asked, his voice already tense. Mandy is outside your house in tears. She says you locked her out. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Yeah, I did. Silence. And why would you do that? I smiled. Check your messages, John. A pause. Then a muffled ding through the phone. I knew exactly what he was looking at. The same photos I dropped in the group chat. The bar. The hotel. The wedding ring on her pillow. John exhaled sharply. Then, I heard Mandy's mom in the background. Oh my God. Then, the yelling started. Not at me. At Mandy. What is this? What have you done? Her mom screamed. John, to his credit, kept his composure. David. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I kept my voice steady. So am I. Mandy tried to grab the phone from him, but I heard her dad snap, You don't get to talk right now. Finally, someone else was holding her accountable. The group chat explodes. By midday, the group chat was on fire. Mandy's so-called friends were turning on her. Mandy, what the hell? You lied straight to our faces. So all those times you said Dave was being paranoid, you were actually cheating? Does Michael know you're homeless now? I didn't even have to respond. They were doing my job for me. Then came the best message of all. From Michael's wife. Oh yeah, he was married. Hi Dave. I'm so sorry you're going through this. I just found out too. Michael is about to come home to a locked door and divorce papers. Thought you should know. I grinned. Looks like Mandy wasn't the only one losing everything today. Mandy's final plea. That evening, after hours of radio silence, Mandy finally texted me. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But please, don't throw away what we have. Can we just talk? I stared at the message for a long time. Then, I typed my response. We don't have anything anymore, Mandy. You threw it away the second you chose him over me. I hope he was worth it. Then, I blocked her. She was officially out of my life. By the next morning, Mandy was gone. Her car was no longer in the driveway. The trash bags with her clothes? Still there. She didn't even bother taking them. I wasn't surprised. She had nowhere to go. Her parents were furious. Michael's wife had kicked him out, and most of her friends wanted nothing to do with her. But me. I felt good. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I woke up without that heavy, sinking feeling in my chest. No more wondering. No more doubting. She was out of my life, and I was moving forward. Michael gets what's coming. Later that afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the best of me. Hello. Silence. Then a low, furious voice. You ruined my life. I recognized it immediately. Michael. I smirked. Oh, I did that? Pretty sure you managed that all by yourself. You could have handled this like a man instead of turning my wife against me. I laughed. Actually laughed. Your wife deserved to know the truth, just like I did. But hey, if you're upset, maybe take it up with Mandy. Silence. Then, a heavy sigh. She won't even talk to me. I leaned back in my chair, enjoying this way more than I should have. Yeah. That sucks, man. Guess she was never really yours to begin with, huh? I could almost hear him grinding his teeth. Then he hung up. Pathetic. He thought he was special. That Mandy left me because of some deep connection they had. But now that reality had smacked him in the face, he was just another fool she used and discarded. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. The divorce begins. A few days later, Mandy finally reached out again. Not to apologize. Not to beg. To talk about the divorce. She wasn't fighting it, probably because she knew she had no leverage. No judge was going to feel sorry for a woman who got caught cheating in a hotel with another man. I didn't even need a messy court battle. I just wanted one thing, our house. I had worked for it, maintained it, paid for it. She lost her right to it the second she snuck around behind my back. Surprisingly, she didn't argue. She just agreed to walk away. I guess she finally realized she had nothing left to fight for. Mandy's new life. A few weeks later, I got some updates through mutual friends. Michael had moved to a different city. His wife took everything in the divorce, including his business shares. Mandy was couch surfing. Her parents still weren't speaking to her, and most of her friends had cut ties. She was completely alone. And you know what? I didn't feel bad. Because this wasn't just about cheating. It was about the lies. The manipulation. The way she made me feel like I was the crazy one while she was sneaking off with someone else. She made her choices. And now, she was living with them. Weeks passed. Life got quieter. No more Mandy, no more late-night doubts, no more lies. Just me, my house, and a future that finally felt like it was mine again. Then, one night, she showed up. It was late, past 11 p.m. I was sitting on the couch, watching TV, when I heard a knock at the door. Soft. Hesitant. I already knew who it was. I opened the door, and there she stood. Mandy. She looked rough. Dark circles under her eyes, hair tied up in a messy bun, wearing an old hoodie that wasn't even hers. She had lost weight. For the first time in a long time, she looked small. "Hey," she said, barely above a whisper. I didn't say anything. Just stood there, arms crossed, waiting. She took a deep breath. "Can we talk?" I sighed. "About what, Mandy? What's left to say?" She fidgeted. I need you to understand that I never wanted to hurt you." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You didn't want to hurt me? You just— what? Accidentally ended up in a hotel with another man." Her lip trembled. "I was stupid. I made a mistake." There it was again. That word. Mistake. "No, Mandy. A mistake is sending a text to the wrong person. You made a series of choices. Every time you lied, every time you went behind my back, every time you touched him, you made a choice." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I hate myself for it." I shrugged. "Not my problem anymore." She looked up at me, desperate. "Can we ever be friends?" I almost felt bad for her. Almost. "Mandy," I said, keeping my voice steady, "I don't hate you. I don't wish you misery. But you and we're done. I don't want you in my life, not as a wife, not as a friend, not as a memory I hold on to." Her breath hitched. She wiped her eyes, nodding. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I nodded. "Okay." Then I shut the door. And that was it. That was the last time I ever saw her. Moving on. Mandy faded into the background of my life. I didn't check up on her, didn't ask mutual friends about her. I let her become what she deserved to be, just another mistake in my past. And me. I started living again. I went out more. Met new people. Took trips I'd always wanted to take. I rebuilt my life, piece by piece, without her. Because at the end of the day, revenge isn't just about making them suffer. It's about showing them that you don't need them to be happy. And that's exactly what I did. Months passed. Life was good. I had finally reached a point where I wasn't waking up thinking about Mandy, wasn't replaying every lie, every betrayal. She was just gone. And then, out of nowhere, she came back. Not physically. Not at my door. A message. One random evening, I was scrolling through my phone when a new number popped up. "Mandy. Hey. I don't know if you'll even read this, but I just wanted to say I'm truly sorry. For everything. I hope you're doing well." I stared at it for a solid minute. Laughed. Then blocked the number. Because at the end of the day, I didn't need her apology. She wasn't reaching out for me, she was doing it for herself. To ease her guilt. To rewrite the story in her mind so that she wasn't the villain. But I didn't owe her closure. I had already moved on. And that was the real revenge. Life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. Months had passed since I blocked Mandy's last message. I was fully moved on. New routine, new hobbies, even started casually dating again. Then, one day, I ran into Emma. Emma, Mandy's old friend. The one she used to dump Doug on whenever she went on her business trips. I was at a coffee shop, waiting for my order, when I heard a voice behind me. "Dave." I turned. Emma stood there, holding a coffee, looking awkward as hell. "Wow, hey," I said, keeping my tone neutral. She hesitated. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Same." She shifted on her feet. "Listen, I just want to say, I had no idea what Mandy was doing. She told me she was going to conferences. If I had known she was..." I held up a hand. "Emma, relax. I don't blame you for anything." She exhaled in relief. "Good. Because honestly, she screwed over a lot of people." That caught my attention. What do you mean? Emma hesitated, then leaned in. You don't know. Know what? She glanced around, as if making sure Mandy wasn't lurking behind a corner. Then she sighed. Michael wasn't her only affair, Dave. My stomach tightened. Come again. Emma looked genuinely uncomfortable. I didn't want to be the one to tell you this, but Michael was just the one she got caught with. There were others. I went completely still. Others. I repeated, my voice cold. Emma nodded. Yeah. I didn't know until after everything blew up. But some of the girls in our friend group started talking. There were whispers, little things we overlooked. She always had a lot of business trips. Always had new excuses for why she was too busy to hang out with certain people. Looking back, it all adds up. I clenched my jaw. I don't know why I was so shocked. Mandy had already proven what kind of person she was. But hearing that Michael wasn't even the first, it hit different. Emma gave me a sympathetic look. I know this probably doesn't help, but you dodged a bullet, Dave. Seriously. I took a deep breath. She was right. Yeah, I said, forcing a smirk. I did. And for the first time since the divorce, I meant it. I left the coffee shop in a daze. I wasn't angry. Wasn't sad. Just numb. Mandy had cheated with more than just Michael. That part of my life was already in the rearview, but hearing that she had done it multiple times? That she had been lying for even longer than I thought? It was like finding out a movie you hated actually had 2 more sequels. I sat in my car, just processing. And then, like some cruel joke, my phone buzzed. Not a call. Not a message. A friend request. From Mandy. I stared at it. Unbelievable. She had lost everything. Her home, her friends, her reputation. And now, she was reaching back out. For what? Forgiveness? Closure? I didn't even hesitate. Decline. Block. Done. I wasn't going to be part of her redemption arc. She made her choices. Now, she could live with them. And me. I was finally, completely free. After blocking Mandy's pathetic attempt to reconnect, I realized something. I didn't feel anything. No anger. No bitterness. No satisfaction, even. Just nothing. And that's when I knew. I had finally won. Not by getting revenge. Not by exposing her. Not by watching her life fall apart. But by moving on. Building something new. I stopped looking over my shoulder. Stopped wondering, what if? Stopped replaying every moment, every red flag I had ignored. Instead, I started saying yes to life again. Took a trip to Italy, somewhere I had always wanted to go. Picked up old hobbies I had dropped during my marriage. Started dating again, but on my terms. No rushing, no settling. And for the first time in years, I felt like myself again. Mandy. She became a ghost. Every now and then, I'd hear little updates. She bounced from couch to couch for a while. Tried to rekindle old friendships, but too many people knew what she did. Eventually, she moved to a different city. Disappeared completely. Good. She could keep running from her past. But I wasn't looking back anymore. Because my life, it was only getting better. You know what the best revenge is? Living well. Mandy probably expected me to be bitter forever. Expected me to stay stuck, always wondering what went wrong, always holding on to the anger. But instead, I thrived. My career took off. Bigger clients, bigger opportunities. I bought a new car, one that didn't remind me of the past. I started traveling more. Not because I needed an escape, but because I could. I met someone. Someone real. Someone who didn't lie, didn't make excuses, didn't treat love like a backup plan. One night, I was sitting outside, sipping a drink, watching the sunset, when it hit me. I was happy. Like, genuinely happy. Not because Mandy was suffering. Not because she lost everything, but because I had built a life that didn't include her. Mandy's last attempt. Months later, I got a message from an unknown number. I already knew who it was before I even opened it. I just wanted to say I'm truly happy for you. You deserve the best. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Not because it hurt. But because it didn't matter. Mandy was nothing more than a lesson now. A reminder of how much I had grown. I didn't reply. Just blocked the number and went back to my drink. Because the best revenge is never needing to look back. Looking back, I don't regret a thing. Not the way I exposed Mandy. Not the way I walked away. Not the way I let her self-destruct while I built myself back up. Because at the end of the day, she was the one who lost everything. And me. I gained more than I ever thought possible. The life I was meant to have. I found real love. Someone who didn't lie, didn't betray, and didn't take me for granted. I built a life that was completely mine. No shadows of the past holding me back. I didn't just survive, I thrived. Mandy. She became nothing more than a name from my past. A mistake I refused to repeat. The true revenge. The true revenge wasn't about making her suffer. It was about proving, to myself, that I never needed her. And the best part? She knows it too. Because while she's out there, looking back, regretting, wondering what could have been, I don't think about her at all.
Bye.